I hate conspiracy theories, but I'll tell you one about, well, and this is not even a theory. This part I know is a fact. Did you know when I left D.C. and moved to New York in the 90s, the New York City Police Department had a hip-hop police task force? Did you know that? And this task force would follow anybody that was involved in hip-hop culture around. Not just rappers, drug dealers, because they thought that it was connected somehow. Even young comedians like me. Anybody that was just on that scene, they knew who everybody was and what everybody was doing. And back in those days, I used to go to nightclubs, but sometimes I'd go to a club and the lights would be a little bit different. And I didn't notice, but the OGs would pull me aside and be like, "Careful in the club, nigga. They got the FBI lights up." Which meant that the lighting was strange because the party was under surveillance and they were just telling me to watch my back. And you know, I wasn't doing anything wrong anyway, nigga, just having a good time. Now, did you know that that task force was invented originally to follow just two people around? Those people was a guy named Christopher Wallace, AKA the Notorious B.I.G., and Sean P. Diddy Combs. Now, why is that? That this nigga has been under surveillance for at least 30 years. But just now they noticed that he racketeers and beats up bitches. I bet you, if he was doing all that, I bet you they seen him doing it for a long time. But why now? I don't know. It was strange in this case. Nobody called the police. Except for Kid Cudi. And everybody called Kid Cudi a snitch. But he wasn't a snitch. A snitch is when two niggas do crime together and one of them gets caught and tells on the other one to get himself out of the trouble. Kid Cudi was violated by Puff. He alleged that Puff blew up his motherfucking Porsche with a Molotov cocktail and didn't stop there. He said he then alleged that Puff broke into his house and opened this nigga's Christmas gifts. Oh, nigga, I'd have been furious. And Kid Cudi said, "I can't prove that he opened the gifts or nothing, but I came in the house and he was in there and the gifts was open," and that nigga was just like, "Merry Christmas, Playboy." So what was Kid Cudi supposed to do? He only got two choices. Either A, you're gonna have to do some gangster shit to this nigga that he's gonna have a hard time proving. Or if you're not built like that, and I do not believe that Kid Cudi is built like that, your last option is B. You gotta call the police. Good for Kid Cudi. He did the right thing. I, on the other hand, I'm built like that. If this nigga fuck my family's Christmas up, you better believe I'm gonna make him suffer for that shit. And niggas are gonna come up to me and tell me all about it and not even know I did it. "Oh my God, Dave. Oh, did you hear what happened to Puffy?" "Oh my God, no. What happened?" He was jogging by himself in Topanga Canyon. A falcon came out of nowhere and killed this nigga. Oh my God. I love hip-hop music. I love many of the people that make that music. They taught me things and showed me things that I'd never seen for myself. Good things. For example, I was in Atlanta once. I'm almost done. Hang in there, champ. I was in Atlanta, and a rapper named T.I. called me up. Now, at this time, I didn't know him well. I know him better now, but I knew him well enough that he'd have my phone number. And the nigga called me up. He was like, "Dave, I heard you was in my city." He said, "I want to show you the real Atlanta." I said, fuck yeah, nigga, let's go. He said, meet me downstairs in your hotel valet. So I went downstairs. I thought he was fucking around, but when I went down there, he was outside in the valet, sitting in a purple Phantom. This car must have been $1.5 million. Beautiful purple color with ivory white seats. It's the kind of car that you gotta have a chauffeur to drive, but for some reason, this nigga was driving it himself. And I didn't ask no questions. I just jumped in the car, and man, he showed me Atlanta, everything. Outkast and them started rapping over there, and Future used to play in the playground over here. And then he sold the car up and he pointed to a house and he goes, and Martin Luther King grew up in that house right there. And he raised his children over here. And that's the church he preached in over there. And then we stopped at a red light, and these little black kids rushed the car from either side of the intersection with water bottles. These kids in Atlanta, if you know, they're called the water boys. Their whole hustle is they sell water to people who are stuck in that hot Atlanta traffic. I didn't know that. I just saw these young niggas running up on the car, so I locked the door like, fuck that. But T.I. rolled his window down, started giving the kids orders. Slow down, don't just run up on somebody's car. You don't know what they got in there. And smile so you look less threatening. And remember your manners. Yes, sir, no ma'am, please, thank you. That'll keep you alive. And keep that condensation on that water so it looks refreshing and delicious. And then that kid realized that he was talking to a legend. He said, oh my God. He said, thanks, T.I., and held his hand out for some money. And that nigga T.I. looked at him and said, I done gave you the game, and rolled up the window and drove away. That night, I did my show, and when I got off stage, T.I. was backstage with a friend of his that I didn't know. I just knew his friend was somebody because everyone was acting all excited that he was back there. So I asked him, I go, yo, Tip, who's your man? And he's like, oh, that right there? He goes, that there is the future of hip hop. And I was like, nigga, will you just calm down? So then I asked the dude, I said, yo, my man, I said, what's your name? And the dude looked over, he said, I'm Nipsey. And this was Nipsey Hussle. I'm not gonna go all into it, but I gotta tell you, that night, me and T.I. and Nipsey went out, and we had a fucking blast. Good time, not a freak-off fun, but fun. So much so that when I got home from the road, and my wife always asked me, she goes, Dave, how was your trip? Normally I'm just like, it was good. But this time I was like, babe, I met the coolest nigga. I said, this nigga's younger than me, but it's like he's older than me. And she's like, what? She goes, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know, bitch. She's like, it's like hanging out with a fortune cookie. This nigga just had an answer for everything. I told her all about Nipsey. And what was funny about it is years later, I saw Nipsey's widow, and she pulled me aside. I'd never met her. And she said, I just want to tell you that my husband loved you. She said, he said he met you in Atlanta, and you had a wonderful time. I said, boy, that's fucking crazy. We sure did. Not long after I met Nipsey, I was in LA doing a show. And then after the show, I got a text from a guy that says, I'm at a party you need to be at. And I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. And he's like, no, nigga, you have to come to this party. So I'm thinking this must be the freak off, finally. And the party was at a place that I'd been to a million times, so I wasn't excited about being in that place. But when I walked in, it just was different. It was popping. And it turns out that the party was for Nipsey. Nipsey had been nominated for Rap Album of the Year, and everyone that he would have ever respected was at the party. T.I. was there, Snoop was there, Jay-Z was there, Puffy, before we knew he did all that stuff, was there. I was there, on and on and on. And as good as the party was, when I was partying, I was having fun, but I had a pit in my stomach because it reminded me of the 90s. And you can believe me or you cannot believe me. I'm just telling you how I saw and how I felt. They had the FBI lights up. I just felt like, man, this party's under surveillance, but I didn't think too much of it. And then I went back home to Ohio and I was taking a nap, and my wife shook me awake, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, David. I said, what's going on with you? She said, your friend is dead. Now, I'm old now, so I'm like, bitch, you're gonna have to be more specific than that. I know niggas with gout. But it was Nipsey. And this is why I feel for Charlie Kirk's fans, because I know what it's like to see someone you look up to and admire gunned down by a fucking nobody. Oh my God. It's so hard to accept that. And if you looked on the internet and saw all those terrible videos, because there was a very gory video of Nipsey's murder too. And then I looked in the comment section, and the internet was doing what it does, and everyone was coming up with one conspiracy theory after another, but the one that I kept seeing the most involved a holistic doctor in New York City. As I get older, I appreciate my teachers more and more, but to tell you the truth, I appreciated them then. Teacher salary is, not necessarily what it should be. And when I think about that, juxtaposed to the dedication that the teachers, the time they would spend to me, the way they would notice, are you okay? Is everything all right? You look sad today. Any little thing, like a family member would. And they fostered an environment of almost absolute trust, like your parents. There's 2 lectures that I got at school that changed the way I do comedy, that turned a light switch on. It was 2 teachers, Donald Lease. Donald Lease, may he rest in peace. Maybe one of the single best educators that I've ever met in my life. He had a demeanor about himself that demanded excellence from his students. He would tell us incredible stories that I didn't believe. He claimed in one class, the song Killing Him Softly was about him. I was like, nah, nigga, not you. He told me he knew Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack and all these people, these DC legends. He's a humble man, but he really demanded excellence. And he gave us a lecture once on the concept called polarization. Polarization meaning the idea that if you can make everybody look at the same thing at the same time, that their rational mind will decrease and their emotional response will increase. He said that's how audiences work, that's how mobs work, that's how you make a person lose themselves in the crowd. I got it. As he was saying this, he would hold a staple in his hand. It was a good lecture. He said, everyone focus on the staple, and then he would explain to us what polarization is as we're all looking at this staple, and then he'd scream, ha! And everyone would jump, oh! And he said, what you scared of? Oh, shit, that works. Avoid his disapproval. When we were coming up, they had a thing called juries. I don't know, do they still do juries? Juries is when all the department heads give you a piece to work on and they sit there and they make you perform the piece, and the criticism is brutal. We were kids. We didn't understand that they were preparing us for a hard world ahead. If you wanted a profession in art, they would tear us to shreds. The stress of a jury. And man, I never practiced. because I didn't want to act. At an improv class, a teacher named Geraldine Gilstrap told me that I should stop doing funny pieces, that I should try to stretch myself artistically, that maybe I had more in me than comedy. And at the time, I took offense to that. So because she said that, after school that very night, I went to the comedy club. For the first time, I signed the list, and I waited, and I got on, and I killed it. Killed it. Must have been 35 years ago, night after night, I killed it. I'd show up with the 20 years to be the best, or 30 years to be the best. But when you do art, you could be great whenever the will decides that you're great. I feel very lucky for that. And I never forgot this school. I've always come back and checked in. One of my favorite honors was doing the commencement at Ellington. I can't even remember what year it is. I just remember they cheered for me when I came out. I wasn't a big star, but I was their star. And I felt like I was home. After I did Lorne Michaels, after I did Saturday Night Live, Lorne Michaels said something that I got to share with you. He goes, "You went to Peggy Capeford School, didn't you?" That's what he said. And I said, "I did." And he said, I want to say to Saturday Night Live, he goes, "Tell her I owe her money." You know, I never asked to have this theater named after me. Peggy asked me. She was ailing, and I went to her house to visit her. She said, "I want you to put your name on the school." She said, "It will help us raise money for the school." And to me, it was like, I felt like I'm a little young for that, and I'm still kind of using the name, you know what I mean? Let's see what I do with it first. You never know, you know. Like, imagine if OJ named his son OJ Jr. Oh, Dad. And around then, I was receiving the Mark Twain Prize, huge honor. And the next day, all the artists that came to honor me, the Bradley Coopers and Chris Tuckers and all these great people, came to Ellington, and they taught master classes for the students. And Peggy Cooper Capeford, as sick as she was, got out of her bed so she could be with her babies. She never left us. So I did it. Say, you know, whatever you want to do, however I can help, I'll do it. I gotta tell you, if you quit a show like Chappelle's show, I don't know if you know what happens to you professionally, but I'll tell you what doesn't happen. They don't just say, "Well, good luck in your future endeavors." With that media, they beat me up. With their power, they tried to make me behave. It takes a strong person to stand out in the cold like that. And I swear to God, so much of the strength I got to do that, the inner warmth I got to do that, I learned in this school and from my friends who helped raise me. So why wouldn't I do anything I could to help my benefactor? And the last time I came back, after the closer, when the kids were mad at me, I gotta tell you, that was quite the day. All the kids were screaming and yelling. I remember I said to the kids, I go, "Well, okay, well, what do you guys think I did wrong?" And a line formed. These kids said everything about gender and this and that and the other, but they didn't say anything about art. And this is my biggest gripe with this whole controversy with the closer, that you cannot report on an artist's work and remove artistic nuance from his words. It would be like if you were reading a newspaper and they say, man shot in the face by a 6-foot rabbit, expected to survive. You'd be like, oh my God. And they never tell you it's a Bugs Bunny cartoon. I took a lot of cold shots in show business. And I gotta tell you, as the years go on, you feel the shots less and less as just the business, is what you say. But that one, that day, boy, that day they hurt me. When I heard those talking points coming out of these children's faces, that really, sincerely hurt me. Because I know those kids didn't come up with those words. I've heard those words before. The more you say I can't say something, the more urgent it is for me to say it. And it has nothing to do with what you're saying I can't say. It has everything to do with my right, my freedom of artistic expression that is valuable to me, that is not separate from me. It's worth protecting for me, and it's worth protecting for everyone else who endeavors in our noble, noble professions. And these kids didn't understand that they were instruments of oppression. And I didn't get mad at them. The kids, the freshmen, they're not ready yet. They don't know. What made me mad, and I am this petty, I ain't saying names. One of the kids' mother went on Fox News. And she used to be a student here. I remember her face, but I don't know if she was particularly popular. Anyway. She was in the literary media arts department. She said a lot of things that I didn't like. A lot of things, but, you know, that's her right. Things she said that got to me. She said, at Duke Ellington, that theater was a sanctuary for students. I used to sit there and meditate. Well, of course you'd meditate. You were a literary media arts student. We didn't meditate in here, we got to work. But okay, fine. I would sit in there and meditate, she said. And then she scrunched her face up. She's a beautiful woman, but her face looked hideous the way she scrunched it up. And she said, and just to imagine his name on that theater. How could you do that to those kids? Listen. No matter what they said about the closer, it was still the most watched special in the world. And I am still of the mind, and I say this with all humility, it is a masterpiece. And I challenge all my peers to make its equal. They cannot. I am sure. It will be decades before you ever see someone in my genre as proficient as me. I am maybe a once-in-a-lifetime talent. I am telling you the truth. About 3 weeks ago, I saw in the newspaper that they said a man that was dressed in women's clothing threw a pie at the Mona Lisa and tried to deface it. And it made me laugh because I'm like, it's like the closer. I said it to the kids that day, if you have a better idea, then express it, and you can beat me. It's that easy. If you have more talent than me, then display it, and you can beat me. with certainty. This is what our genre is about. The idea that my name will be turned into... Before I go, I want to share this story with you because it's important to this point. I want your community to know that one of the coolest people I ever met was a transgender woman. And this is not a man that I knew that became a woman. This woman was trans when I met her. Lived in San Francisco. Daphne Dworman is her name. I would do 18 shows in the Bay Area, sometimes in Oakland and Dirty Hood nightclub, and she would be there, a white trans woman, laughing loud and hard at everything I said, especially the trans jokes. It's very puzzling. Because she was obviously trans. And one night after one of the shows, I met her. And what it was, turns out, it was her dream to be a comedian. And I was her hero. It's very moving. I could not dislike somebody that felt that way about me. We became fast friends. And when I made that special Sticks and Stones, right as it was coming out, I happened to be in San Francisco and I wanted to do a show, but I needed an opening act. And I remembered that trans woman I had met. So I called her on the phone. And I called her myself. I said, "Hey, Daphne, this is Dave Chappelle." She couldn't believe it. And I go, "I'm in San Francisco." And then she started saying a bunch of wild stuff. I was like, "Relax now, I don't want any pussy." I was, I was calling because I'm doing a show and I need an opening act. And I was wondering if you'd open the show. And she was like, "Fuck yeah." Now, I didn't know this at the time, but this woman had only done stand-up comedy 8 times in her life. This is little to no experience. And now she's about to open a show for what many call the GOAT. She's an amateur in stature, but in practice, she was very professional. She showed up early, which is something I appreciate, because I like people to be on time. She was dressed to the motherfucking nines. I mean, I'm transphobic, and even I was like, "You look nice." Went up on the stage with all the swag of a professional comedian, grabbed that mic and walked right down the middle and looked at the crowd like a gangster. Man, you should have seen her work. This bitch bombed for 45 minutes straight. And I am not exaggerating, young man. That show was terrible. Stunk. Stunk. And then she brings me on and, you know, I was like a glass of water after a handful of salt. The crowd was happy to see me. I was killing it. But here's what impressed me. Any other comedian I've ever seen, if they had bombed as bad as she did, would have snuck out of the back of the theater and went home and cried or something. And she didn't do that. Not only did she not leave, she found a seat right up in front. You know, when a new comedian watches an experienced comedian in comedy, we call this taking class. And this bitch took my whole class. She sat up there and was laughing as hard as she always laughs, as if nothing bad had even happened to her. And I saw her show. Something bad happened to her. She was drunk. So she starts talking to me while I'm on stage, but the way a person would talk to a television when they were alone. She's talking to me like that. That didn't bother me because I knew her, but the crowd didn't like that shit at all because she sucked. And a guy in the back of the room stood up, and Daphne's hair was dyed blonde at the time, and the guy screamed out, and his energy felt wild as fuck. He said, "Hey, Daphne!" And everybody kind of clamped, like got tense. We didn't know if it was a heckler or an active shooter. And he said, "Does the carpet match the drapes?" Yeah, it was fucked up. The whole crowd kind of groaned because it was so, like, mean. Everybody groaned, except for Daphne. She kind of laughed, which was weird. And she didn't even look all the way back. She said, "Sir, I don't have carpets. I have hardwood floors." Just like that. Just like that. And boy, when she said that shit, it blew the roof off the place. cut through all the tension. With that one joke, she made up for 45 minutes of a stinker of a show. And after that, she could do no wrong. And I kept on rocking. She kept on talking to me. And then the show became something cooler than a show. It became like a conversation between a black man and a white trans woman, and we started getting to the bomber shit. All them questions that you think about that you'd be afraid to ask, I was just asking them, and she was answering them, and her answers were funny as shit. The crowd was falling out of their chairs. And at the end of the show, I go, oh, Daphne, I said, well, that was fun. I go, I love you to death, but I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. The whole crowd laughed, except for Daphne. Now she looks at me like I'm not her friend anymore. Like I'm something bigger than me, like I'm the whole world and a guy. And she said, I don't need you to understand me. I said, what? She said, I just need you to believe, just like this, she goes, that I'm having a human experience. And when she said it, the whole crowd kind of gasped. And I gave her the Fight Club look. I said, I believe you, bitch. Because she didn't say anything about pronouns. She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it. You know, I believe you because it takes one to know one. Then I told the crowd good night, and they start going crazy. And before the applause gets to its crescendo, I say, and don't forget my opening act, Daphne. And the crowd stood up, and I looked at her, and tears came out of her eyes. She couldn't believe it was happening. I couldn't believe it was happening because her show stunk. And it was a great night. I remember the late, great Paul Mooney was there, a bunch of fly-ass comedy niggas was there. And we all went backstage and was just drinking and talking shit and laughing, and Daphne stole the room. She had everyone cracking up, spinning the yarn, telling us all these crazy stories about shit she be into. We all laughing real hard, and as she's telling us and everyone's laughing, I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God, she is funny. I pulled her aside and I said, you're hilarious. I didn't know that when you were on stage. I said, you're doing some things wrong, but I can help you. I said, anytime I'm in San Francisco, why don't you open the show for me, and I'll just try to give you some pointers, see if you can't work this thing out. And she said, are you serious? I was like, yeah. And she grabbed me real tight, hugged me, squeezed me, and I pushed her off violently because I'm transphobic. I said, boundaries, bitch. When Sticks and Stones came out, a lot of people in the trans community were furious with me, and apparently they dragged me on Twitter. I don't give a fuck, because Twitter's not a real place. And the hardest thing for a person to do is go against their tribe if they disagree with their tribe, but Daphne did that for me. She wrote a tweet that was very beautiful, and what she said was, it was almost exactly what she said. She said, punching down on someone requires you to think less of them. And I know him, and he doesn't. He doesn't punch up, he doesn't punch down, he punches lines, and he's a master at his craft. That's what she said. Beautiful tweet. Beautiful friend. It took a lot of heart to defend me like that. And when she did that, the trans community dragged that bitch all over Twitter. For days, they was going in on her, and she was holding her own because she's funny. But 6 days after that wonderful night I described to you, my friend Daphne killed herself. Oh, yeah. It's a true story. My heart was broken. Yeah, it wasn't the jokes. I don't know if it was them dragging her. I don't know what's going on in her life, but I bet dragging her didn't help. I was very angry at them. I was very angry at her. I felt like Daphne lied to me. She always says she identified as a woman, and then one day she goes up to the roof of a building and jumps off and kills herself. Clearly, Only a man would do some gangster shit like that. Hear me out. As hard as it is to hear a joke like that, I'm telling you right now, Daphne would have loved that joke. That's why she was my friend. I was reading her obituary, and I found out she was survived by a daughter. And the moment I found that out, and this is true, Anderson Cooper from CNN texted me. And all he said was very nice. He said, "I'm sorry to hear about your friend." And I texted him right back, "New phone, who this?" He said, "It's Anderson Cooper." I said, "Oh," I said, "Anderson." I go, "Look, I need to find her family." And he texted me right back with all the phone numbers and all this information. I say this to say, if you ever want to know about anything gay, call Anderson Cooper from CNN. This nigga is faster than Google. And what I did is I got in touch with her family and I started a trust fund for her daughter, because I know that's all she ever really cared about. And I don't know what the trans community did for her, but I don't care, because I feel like she wasn't their tribe, she was mine. She was a comedian in her soul. Her daughter is very young, but I hope to be alive when she turns 21, because I'm going to give her this money myself. And by then, I'll be ready to have the conversation that I'm not ready to have today. But I'll tell that little girl, "Young lady, I knew your father." And he was a wonderful woman. Empathy is not gay. Empathy is not black. Empathy is bisexual. It must go both ways. It must go both ways. Remember, taking a man's livelihood is akin to killing him. I'm begging you, please do not abort the baby. Kevin Hart dreamt his entire life of hosting the Oscars, and when he finally got the job, they just took it. It's not fair. They didn't kill him. Kevin's a strong guy. But I'm sure it broke old Clifford's heart. It's over. LBGTQ, LMNOP, QIZ, it is over. I am not telling another joke about you until we are both sure that we are laughing together. I'm telling you, this is done. I'm done talking about it. All I ask from your community, with all humility, will you please stop punching down on my people? Thank you very much, and good night.